It was the coldest morning of the year. The kind where even the streetlights seemed to shiver, and most people hurried past one another, their faces buried in scarves, their hearts wrapped in invisible walls. But for Daniel Harper, the bitter cold wasn't just weather, it was a reflection of his life. He stood outside the corner bakery, staring through the foggy glass at the warm glow inside. His clothes were layered but worn, his shoes uneven and soaked, and his hands trembled not just from the cold, but from hunger. He hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. Once a factory worker, Daniel's life had spiraled after a plant closure, followed by illness, eviction, and eventually, being forgotten. People passed him, occasionally glancing but never stopping. Until one man did. The gift that changed everything. He was well-dressed, with a neat beard and kind eyes. He looked at Daniel without flinching, without pity, just quiet empathy. "You hungry?" he asked. Daniel hesitated, almost ashamed to say it. "Yeah. Haven't eaten." The man simply nodded and said, "Come inside. Let's get you something warm." He led Daniel into the bakery, ordered him breakfast, a full one, and coffee. Daniel was overwhelmed but tried to hide it. When they sat down, he introduced himself, Michael Bennett. They didn't talk much. Michael didn't ask for Daniel's story. He just listened. When breakfast was done, he handed Daniel a small envelope. Daniel looked at it, confused. "What's this?" Michael smiled. "It's not just money. It's a chance. But how you use it, that's up to you. All I ask is that someday, when you can, you pass the kindness on." He stood, patted Daniel's shoulder, and walked out into the cold. Daniel opened the envelope. Inside was $500 in cash, a card with an address, and a handwritten note. "Believe again. One act of kindness can start a chain reaction. The first step." That day, Daniel didn't buy alcohol or waste the money. He got a haircut, a clean shirt from a thrift store, and used the address on the card. It was a small job agency that worked with struggling individuals. Michael had apparently left instructions there months ago. If someone came with his card, they'd get priority assistance. Within 2 days, Daniel had a job interview for warehouse night shifts. Within a week, he had a job. The road was still hard. He worked long hours, slept in shelters, saved every dime. But something had shifted, not just outside, but inside. Someone believed in him, and that belief rekindled something Daniel hadn't felt in years: self-worth. The ripple begins. Fast forward 3 years. Daniel had a steady job, a modest apartment, and had even started volunteering at shelters on weekends. One night, after his shift, he saw a young man, probably early 20s, sitting on a bench outside a 24-hour diner. He looked cold. Hopeless. Lost. It reminded Daniel too much of himself. He walked over and asked, "You okay?" The young man nodded weakly but didn't look up. "You hungry?" Daniel asked. He looked up this time, surprised. "Yeah." Daniel smiled gently. "Come inside. Let's get you something warm." The same way Michael once did for him. And so it continued. The young man's name was Luis. He had aged out of the foster system, fallen into odd jobs, and lost his way. Daniel didn't have a fortune to give, but he gave a full meal, a listening ear, and later, a connection to a support group that helped Luis find job training and housing. Years passed. Luis became a youth mentor. One of the boys he mentored, Jaden, would go on to become a counselor. And one of Jaden's clients, a single mother on the verge of homelessness, would start a small bakery with his encouragement. That bakery would hire local teenagers and offer a pay-what-you-can breakfast every Friday. And one Friday morning, an older man named Michael Bennett walked into that bakery. He saw a quote painted on the wall above the counter. One act of kindness can start a chain reaction. His eyes filled with tears. Full circle. Michael hadn't expected anything in return that day when he helped Daniel. But now, years later, he saw the ripple. It wasn't just about a man fed in a bakery, it was lives lifted, directions changed, dignity restored. It had reached places and people he would never meet. That's how kindness works. It's not always loud or grand. Sometimes, it's quiet, simple, and inconvenient. Sometimes it's just buying a meal, listening without judgment, or offering someone a chance to believe again. But it never stops at one person. Final scene. Daniel now runs a foundation called The Ripple Project, connecting people in need with mentors who once walked in their shoes. On the front page of the website is a photo of a handwritten note. Believe again. One act of kindness can start a chain reaction. MB. And under it, a quote from Daniel. Kindness saved me. Now I spend my life passing it on. Light bulb moral of the story. You may never know how far a single act of kindness can go. But do it anyway. Because one small gift to a stranger can become a lifeline to hundreds.